Miracle Brokers is back. That's right. We're fully reopened and back to work. Our agents are here to serve you with all of your packing and shipping needs. Need to move? Don't worry. Give us a call today. Collect a package, shipping around the world, or straight to Cayman? You got it. Give us a call on 949-5989. Collection by personalized appointment only, where our dedicated agents are on standby to personally assist you. Don't forget to wear your mask, maintain social distancing, and one person per appointment. Check us out at miraclebrokers.com today. You're now tuned in to the Cold Hard Truth, Cayman's #1 hard-hitting live podcast show, where we feature some straightforward conversations on political, social, and celebrity news and all things happening in the Cayman Islands and around the world. This show was created to give the people a voice and a means of being involved and informed without any filters. Sometimes it gets crazy, but we always keep it real. We bring you the tea, piping hot, so grab your favorite beverage and join the conversation via WhatsApp at 324-1612. Email tips at CaymanMarlRoad.com. Now, here's your host, Sandy Hill, broadcasting live from the beautiful Cayman Islands.
Okay, good morning, folks. Good morning, good morning. Looks like I need to, give me 1 second here. I need to lift my desk. I told you guys I have a standing desk, right? Looks like I need to lift it a little bit more. There we go. Almost. And then it kind of clips into place. There we go. Good morning, everyone. So, wonderful Monday. Good morning to Janet. It's a beautiful Monday. We are so thankful that it looks like Gonzalo is going to be sparing us this time around. So as a named storm, his name, all names get retired once they've been used, or only if they turn into hurricanes. I'm trying to remember how the naming system works. But Ms. Janet, thank you so much. We are very, very grateful to be up and alive and ready to go this morning. Christine, good morning. Thank you so much for logging in and joining us. Mr. Lewis, thank you also for joining the program this morning. Who else is with me? I see Evelyn. Buenos dias. Good morning. We are here for it. And guess what? I got a bit of good news. We are going to start simulcasting, I should say, in Honduras as well. So our friends at it's called BITV for the Bay Islands. That's Bay Islands TV. They're going to be, it's called the Bay Island Channel. They're going to be simulcasting us in Rotan, Utila, La Ceiba, and Olanchito. I got that last one right. So buenos dias to all of our friends in the Bay Islands in Honduras. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. And this is an ongoing partnership that we have had with Ruli and his team there. You guys remember, gosh, I think it's been over a year now. They indicated they wanted to carry some of our news on their social media news platform. And of course, I think that that's a wonderful opportunity for us because Cayman have so many connections with other islands, including the Bay Islands, including Jamaica, and even some folks in the US. So we are pleased that in this day and age, our news can travel far and wide, and our show in particular seems to be of interest to them. So good morning to Carmelie. Good morning, Sherry. Thank you so much, Sherry, sorry for that. Yeah, we love these partnerships. It benefits the people, I think, all over if they can get access to more news. And that's what we're here for. We're going to give you the tea piping hot. And speaking of tea, I have got mine in my CMR mug this morning. So I am ready to rock and roll. It's still seeping, so it's still very much hot. So we're going to let that continue to seep and cool down before I attempt to take a first little sip of that. So I appreciate all of you guys tuning in to the program today. We got a lot to cover. Some very interesting developments over the weekend, and got someone asking me to do a letter for them. So yes, it is. This is your morning spot for all things news, of course. Cecile, good morning to the beautiful Cecile joining us all the way from the UK. So Cecile, thank you so much for tuning in as well. So one of the big stories that we actually broke yesterday, we'd heard about this from Friday, in fact, is our athletes are in a little bit of a pickle because of athletic associations, and I guess it's just a big, I don't know if it's a big misunderstanding or how we wish to term this, but at the end of the day, here's what we know. So the Cayman Islands hosted the CARIFTA Games in, what year was that? 2019. So that was last year. And of course, you guys will remember we were actually invited and we did some coverage of the event. It was in kind of towards the end of April, April the 20th through the 22nd. So it was a 3-day athletic event. We saw like 600 athletes and at least over 100 delegates and officials attend that event. Really quite a big deal, to be honest. And so, it seems like it was pulled off quite well. There were a lot of volunteers that participated in the CARIFTA event, making sure that it went off without a hitch. And a lot of times when we see volunteers like doing everything, organizing media passes, making sure that the kids are safe at their village hotel, all that stuff, we don't know all of what goes into putting on an event of that caliber. And this is definitely one of the, I would say, if not the largest sporting event that the Cayman Islands will host on occasion. And this is actually, to the best of my knowledge, our third time hosting it. Well, lo and behold, this time around, it seems like there were some issues. So one of the issues that has come to the forefront is apparently there's some dispute about whether or not the organizing committee, it's called the Local Organizing Committee, or the LOC, there are some issues about whether or not they actually may have overcharged the delegates. So let me try to explain this as best I can, because it does get a little bit convoluted, but yet it's so incredibly simple. So one of the responsibilities of the local organizing committee is obviously to make sure that the village where they're all staying, the sporting village or whatever they call it, which is basically the hotel where all the athletes and their delegates will stay, is a safe is a safe environment, a safe place for them. And they have to do that at a cost. So, we don't own, or we can't afford to build a village. Sometimes when these events are hosted, such as the Olympics, you will see countries invest millions of dollars into preparing for the event. So like when China hosted Brazil, they will build, because they don't have the facilities otherwise, the entire Olympic village from scratch. And oftentimes they throw up substandard housing because they know they only need it for, a couple weeks or whatever the duration of the events are. And so they do this because the return on the investment is substantial. Businesses make a lot of money off of tourists that are coming into the country, just as we did here, whether it's tour bus operators, it's restaurants. They may go out to see some of our national attractions even. So there's money to be made when you host an event. Exactly how much money, only God knows. But I'm sure there are estimates that this probably brought in, at least hundreds of thousands of dollars into the Cayman Islands economy. So imagine now this ending in our local organizing committee being in a dispute with NACA. And NACA is the North American, Central American, and Caribbean Athletic Association. And so they have now suspended, by way of a letter, the Cayman Islands Athletic Association. So they placed a sanction on the Cayman Islands Athletic Association which basically means that until they are satisfied that this matter is resolved, there will be no athlete. Okay, so listen to this. No athlete can actually participate. So this sanction prevents any athletes in the Cayman Islands from participating in any NACA and World Athletics event, including the Olympics game. So this is not good. Right now, the Olympics has been postponed until next year because of COVID-19. But imagine if the Olympics game was postponed until next month or the month after. Because of this situation, essentially the Cayman Islands athletes, and we've got some wonderful athletes, Ronald Forbes, um, Hyman, I think is his name, but we have a lot of wonderful athletes that would actually be eligible to participate in the Olympics. And they would be now, because of what turns out to be an administrative dispute, they would be prohibited from participating in the Olympics or any other regional or international events, which I think is just absolutely disgusting, to be honest. And when we get into the details of what's going on, it just seems like a little bit of a pissing competition. And I think there's some real concerns here. People are asking, how is the Cayman Islands Athletic Association being ran? There are some serious concerns about that. And so we can delve into a little bit of those concerns this morning as well. So good morning, Olivia. Thank you so much for tuning in. Ivan is also here for it. And of course, Karen is here. Good morning, Karen. So if you're just tuning in, folks, I just want to do a big shout out to our friends and family members and acquaintances in Honduras, because now we have partnered with BITV, the Bay Islands TV channel from Rotan, and it's covering several different areas, including La Ceiba. So buenos dias, La Ceiba. Buenos dias to everyone in Rotan, Utila, and Olanchito. So thank you so much for tuning into the program. We welcome you to the Cold Hard Truth here in Cayman Road. So they just want to get a little bit of Cayman news and see what is going on in the beautiful Cayman Islands. And we are so fortunate to say that we are quote unquote COVID free. We're still waiting on additional test results, obviously, to come in today, but we've gone now to having 0 COVID cases. Isn't that amazing? And we really want to keep it that way. And of course, I know a lot of people have concerns about whether or not we are prematurely opening our borders in September. So we will keep an eye on that situation and see exactly how that goes. So yes, thank you all so much for tuning in. So listen, back to the story about the Athletic Association, the organizing committee for the CARIFTA 2019 event that we hosted. We were the hosting country. So it has turned into a big, incredible fiasco, to be quite honest. That is very, very unfortunate. So going back to what we know. So essentially, the organizing committee was responsible for organizing the event, collecting fees. So here's some of the details. Co-chaired by the Athletic Association president, which is Lance Barnes. I understand the Cayman Islands Athletic Association has to have a representative on the local organizing committee. So Lancelot Barnes, as CIAA president, filled in that capacity. We also had Joelle Francis, which Joelle works for the Cayman Islands government. I can't honestly remember Joelle's position at this particular time, but I believe he is, I don't know if he's a chief officer. I'll have to look that up, but he is, in the Ministry of Sports. And you guys remember that Joel Francis actually used to work over at Radio Cayman. And he was a host of their afternoon talk show there for a very long time. So here we are. He is now Deputy Chief Officer for Adult Education, Youth Sports, and Public Libraries. And he was appointed to this position some years ago, back in 2019. Oh, I thought it was before that. So October of 2019. I don't know why I thought maybe it was another position in sports. Nonetheless, at the end of the day, he's in this position now. And so he was a representative on the local organizing committee. He was actually co-chair of that committee. So the committee, listen, I would say that none of us have any idea how incredibly hard this committee worked in order to pull this event off. It was, a pretty big deal for the Cayman Islands to host all of these athletes, and everybody was safe and everything seems to have gone without a hitch. However, this is the one hitch that we knew nothing about until this weekend. So on Friday, or maybe even Thursday, there was a letter that was sent by NACA indicating that this sanction was being levied against the Cayman Islands Athletic Association, and by extension, all athletes here in the Cayman Islands. So there is some concern. Let me try to break this part down. So the LOC gets money from the Cayman Islands government. So say my understanding is they probably got about $800,000 from the Cayman Islands government in order to assist them in putting on this event. Part of that money, and I suspect probably a good part of it, goes towards accommodations. So each participating country has to pay what's called a levy fee, which covers food and accommodation, and that is US $150 per individual athletes, and officials, which is paid directly to the LOC. So the LOC recoups a lot of, I wouldn't say a lot, but they recoup some of their money by charging the participating countries a levy fee. So the levy fee is $150 per athlete, per delegate or official, who a lot of them will attend the athletes as coaches or representatives from the country and so on. So they'll be staying in the athletic village, if you will. So the organizing committee has to pay a deposit in advance to secure the facilities and the food vendors. Understandable. You can't go to Margaritaville, where they were staying at the time, and say to Margaritaville, oh, by the way, we want to rent your facility for 5 days. I know for a fact that they had at least like 2 entire floors of that resort, because I did have to go there to pick up our media passes. And it was pretty busy weekend for them, a pretty busy 5 days, which, stick a pin in it. When I think more and more about Margaritaville, it really does bother me that they were making and getting all of these contracts, getting a contract to host and be the village, the sporting village for the CARIFTA 2019 event. And then we find out that they have not paid their staff pensions for years. And here they are making some kind of money. Absolutely disgusting, but we'll get back to that a little bit later on. So good morning to Andy. Thank you so much, Andy, for tuning in. Quincy is joining us from the beautiful Cayman Brac. And Barbara, thank you as well. Good morning to you. And I have got my tea handy, folks, in case you haven't brewed your cup of tea or coffee yet. Mine is still very much sleeping. And I went today again with the honey and chamomile, and there's something else in this, but it's absolutely delicious. So I'm going to let that continue to brew just a little bit longer. It's almost ready for me to take my first sip. All right, folks. So the organizing committee prepays for, some of the accommodations, some of the food vendors to secure their services and so on. There was some allegation made during the event. So they actually had what's called a congress, where the officials get together, I guess, and discuss how the event is going and so on. So the event was like the Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. On the Saturday, I believe, hold on, let me just double check her. On the Sunday, they had this congress where the concerns were raised that the participating countries felt like the organizing committee had been overcharging them. So what they meant by this is essentially the room, and this is one version of events, they were collecting the $150 towards the accommodations. Anyone who came additionally, so if they sent, if they wanted to stay like an additional day, or they sent additional delegates or whatever, they basically had to contribute to their accommodations by paying $100, and then that's for the Village Hotel, and then the LOC would have picked up, the rest of the cost, right? The rest of the associated cost. So basically, it would have then been split between the LOC and these other countries who would be paying this, no doubt, on behalf of their delegates that were here. So it appears that while they were still here, this matter came up at this Congress, and the Minister for Sports, the Honorable Juliana O'Connor Connolly, was there, and I guess they explained to her what they thought had happened, and basically that they were overcharged. So instead of just paying the additional $100 per night, members of the LLC charged them the full 150, and this is US dollars, and then the going rate for the hotel. So if the going rate for the hotel was $300, $400 a night, they paid the 150, which they paid the 150 to the LLC, and then they were invoiced and billed for the difference of like the 300 or 400 or whatever. And of course, what's amazing is when these hotels have these events, they never seem to reduce their prices. In fact, that's when they're going to inflate their prices. And all of a sudden, a room that you could get for like 150 or 200 bucks a night is now $400. And I'm pretty sure that happened during this event as well. So the concerns were brought up at this Congress, and apparently Juliana O'Connor Connolly agreed that there was some sort of issue here and this should be squashed, and that the Cayman Islands government would basically reimburse this money. So this Congress was held on April the 21st of last year at the Westin. And the minister was in attendance. We do understand from LOC members that Lance Barnes was in attendance. I don't know if he was there as part of the LOC committee or CIAA. So it seems like one of the issues is that people are wearing these dual roles, and some persons are alleging that by them wearing dual roles or being in a dual position, it's creating conflicts of interest. So anyway, she agreed to ensure that the LOC, which is a local organizing committee, would refund this money to the individual countries. So my understanding is the individual countries have sent all their payment details. They have said, here is, our bank account, wire transfer, blah, blah, blah. What are we talking about here in terms of money? It's like $40,000 or maybe a little bit over $40,000. So in the scheme of, the event itself and how much money it probably brought into this country and maybe what this country made, it's not really a very large amount. However, what some other members of the local organizing committee had said is that they are not paying this on a matter of principle because they do not feel that the money is actually owed. And that we, the Cayman Islands jurisdiction, are just being gypped out of this money because a lot of these Caribbean countries feel like, oh, we're such a rich jurisdiction that they can do whatever they want to us, and we're going to just cough up the money and we're going to just pay. This is incredibly interesting because I think that there is some merits to that discourse. And here's what I'm going to tell you I've been able to find out. So last year, not last year, sorry, in 2018, the country that hosted the event was the Bahamas. Now, when these countries host, become a hosting country, NACAC will give them a certain amount of money to host the event as well. So, we do have some breaking news here. I'm going to tell you guys in a second, trying to get some additional information on precisely what is going on actually. Let me just send a quick message to our friends over the RCIPS. But there's something afoot at Bananas. Again, there's police tape at that location. So let's see if we can figure out why that is. right, so we'll get this so we can break it to you as we get information. So Bananas is that restaurant on Eastern Avenue where that guy was killed, the Indian guy, some months back. So we will certainly look into that and see what we can find out for you guys. All right, so yeah, so back to the Athletic Association story. So essentially, but the Bahamas was granted, $100,000 US, and by NACA, and then we only get $50,000. So a lot of these contracts are very, very confidential, but there are persons who did some digging in order to try to compare what type of a deal are we getting. And this is so incredibly interesting. I think that as the Cayman Islands, we are not getting as lucrative a deal as other countries. Like, why are we not getting the same amount? It should be a standard amount across the board, regardless of who is hosting the event. But a lot of this comes down to negotiations. What are people willing to negotiate and what they're willing to pay us? So NATCA and others feel that the Cayman Islands is super rich. We're always flaunting our wealth in their faces. When they come here, I know, for example, some of the delegates actually stayed in private homes. And I actually had the opportunity to go to one of those private homes where they were staying. And of course, that's rental money, even for the 5 days. That's rental money that, a vacant home that's owned by Caymanian can then be rented out to the delegates. And once again, transportation up and down, food, all of these things are injected into the local community. But why are we, valued at half of what the Bahamas would be valued at in terms of the contribution that NACAC is actually giving to the hosting country as part of that contract? It is a little bit, it reeks of a lot of unfairness. And I think it does say a lot about what they think of us. So there was also money that was promised from the TV licensing rights that I've heard allegedly never materialized. And this was actually the first time that the CARIFTA Games were hosted on the World Athletics YouTube channel. So that was a first for that event. So there, I'm sure, were thousands of people tuned in to the YouTube channel who would have been watching that event at that particular time. So lots of money back and forth, about $40,000 at question here, but there's so much more going on here between the Athletic Association, the organizing committee. And so essentially that money has not been paid, even after the minister indicated that it would be paid. And now the issue is there are members of the LLC who said, listen, they weren't really represented at that meeting because I don't think that they see Lance Barnes, who's president of the CIAA, as their representative. They see him as a CIAA, the Cayman Islands Athletic Association president. And so because they had no representation there and they were not able to address, the NACAC representatives at this Congress, they then later on wrote to them indicating that they wanted to see the policy where it stated that they only would pay this $150 and an additional $100, and then basically the local organizing committee would absorb whatever the real price of the hotel room would have been, whatever the difference would have been. They have claimed that they requested this information multiple times from NACAC and it was not provided. So on some occasion, apparently, the representative, now this is where it gets super, super interesting. So Sidoni Mothersill, who you guys will know is a Caymanian athlete. She's been involved in athletics for quite some time, and she's actually the former president of the Cayman Islands Athletic Association. And she actually also had a position in the ministry at some point as well. I don't think she still holds that position. I understand that she actually lives overseas with her husband, which we're going to get to here in a second. But Sidoni Mothersill also was elected to NACAC in 2019. So she got a position, it looks like in July, at their conference or Congress in Querétaro, Mexico, on July the 2nd of 2019. She's been elected as a member at large within NACAC. So apparently, she's obviously got Cayman Islands ties. So when it came down to it, they contacted Sedoni, and Sedoni basically said to, again, this is what's being told to us, to the local organizing committee, that there actually isn't a policy per se, but it is, let me tell you the word that they use, that it is a matter of tradition and not policy, that this is how it's handled. So, of course, you could very well appreciate the LOC's position. Policy. It's either we have to do it or we don't. They have signed a variety of different agreements between themselves and NACAC, and so it is a little bit peculiar that if what they're saying is true, that someone would be telling them that this is tradition. Nobody operates in tradition when they do these events. These are events worth a lot of money, and everyone is signing a contract. Everyone is having memorandums of understanding. These are professionally organized events. So it is very peculiar. It's very strange that that would be said, if that indeed is what was said. So the LOC's position is, we don't owe this money. This is just them once again trying to take advantage of the Cayman Islands. And so we do not feel that this money should be paid. And they also allege that there are too many professional conflicts that are happening between CIAA and NACAC, notably with Sedoni Mothersill, who I said was appointed to NACAC last year. One person called me last night who was very, very concerned. They said, hold on a second. We know that Sedoni Mothersill's husband, and to the best of my knowledge, they're still very much together. She has 2 children with him, was a convicted child predator. And you guys will remember this. He was involved in a case where he was convicted of sexting a teenager, and potentially doing even more than that. But there was not sufficient evidence for him to get convicted on the more than that part of it. So instead, he got convicted on the sexting messages, which were very, very clear in terms of what he wanted to do to this young lady, and enticing her and grooming her to send sexually explicit photos of herself, and basically, saying things that he wanted to do to her in a sexually explicit nature. So that is Sedoni's husband. You guys, listen, if you do not remember all of what transpired with that situation, I'm going to invite you to go back, because it was quite a mess. He went to jail for all of 1 hot minute. I mean, it wasn't long at all. And then when he got out of jail, he actually wanted to remain in the CIAA. And so he was actually petitioning them, because I think they had removed him or something like that. And all of this was happening while his wife was very much involved in the athletic association. And despite concerns, she did not step down. She was part of the executive. And so there were lots of concerns. So his name is Atto Stevens, as you guys might remember. And then he ended up sending a letter to the Athletic Association threatening, this was in October of 2018. So he actually sent them a letter threatening to sue them. And he even appealed his decision, his conviction and sentencing. He lost that appeal. This case we followed actually for quite some time. So I think you guys need to check this out in case you do not remember this. So in August of 2017, he was found guilty on 3 out of 4 counts. He was found not guilty on 3 out of 4 counts. And the only thing that really they got him on was the sexting thing, which he's one of the reasons why they went back and they amended the law. And they've added it where now it is a more serious offense to be caught grooming a underage person for your sexual pleasures. And so, he was instrumental, I think, in allowing that to happen. Now, our cabinet, which includes the current cabinet members, so again, Juliana O'Connor Connolly, the premier, and others, actually allowed him to remain in the Cayman Islands. I want to refresh your memory. because this is February 2018. And some of you may not remember this. I know people have very, very short memories and they forget a lot of things. I'm going to put the link here. Our cabinet was allowing him to stay. And you guys know how much that would bother me in particular as an advocate for child sexual survivor victims. This was absolutely disgusting. But apparently, they agreed that he should be able to remain in the Cayman Islands. And that was despite a deportation order from the court. So the courts had said, and I was there for the verdict. When the court gave their verdict a year earlier, the judge said immigration needs to deal with this and have him deported from the Cayman Islands, et cetera, et cetera. So despite that, cabinet was not going to deport him because ultimately the decision is with them. The court had ordered deportation following his sentence for convincing a 14-year-old girl to send topless photos of herself, and he faced several other serious charges, but the judge found that there was not sufficient compelling evidence to convict him on those. However, when you go back and read what the judge said, I mean, trust me, the judge was like, it was Judge Michael Woods. He was like, you are a very sick person. And to think that this was the man who was working around our young athletes and especially our young girls is absolutely disgusting. So he was sentenced to 18 months imprisonment, but because he already had served some time, because as you guys remember, he ran from the Cayman Islands when he knew that they were coming at him. What a coward. And so he only had a portion of that left to serve because his time in custody whilst awaiting extradition in the US counted towards his 18 months that he received. So at any event, he was still on island. The cabinet did not sign off on the deportation order. So, according to the conditional release law, any prisoner serving more than a year is eligible to apply for release after serving 60% of his time. So that he was actually able to get out nowhere near the 18 months, believe me you. So in any event, he was still in the Cayman Islands, and we can blame the Cayman Islands cabinet directly for that. The likes of Alden and Juliana O'Connor Conley. I'm not going to mince my words here today. These are the same people who seem to have no concern, generally speaking, about women, the abuse of children in this community, and so on. So they allowed him to stay, and it was only after we did an article as to why is this guy still here, what is going on, we started to kick up a little bit of a fuss. That then by, let me just see here, by 2 days later, they were like, oh, we're not really responsible for this. This isn't really us. Listen, I got my inside sources. It was very much a cabinet decision. Immigration was ready to give him the boot, and cabinet was not having it. So I'm going to share these links here with you guys just to, again, refresh your memories in terms of exactly what transpired. So they went into straight denial mode. And then he decides that he is going to sue the CIAA. So he actually wrote a letter. And again, this is while his wife is, I think she was secretary or something of CIAA at the time. So he decides to sue the CIAA, claiming that they have to reinstate him. Jesus, imagine this situation. You are convicted of grooming a 14-year-old child as a coach, and everybody comes back and saying, oh, everyone knew that he was no good and he was always so incredibly inappropriate with children. But as is the case in the Cayman Islands, usually everybody knows, but no one is speaking out and no one is taking action against these predators that live amongst us. I'm always flabbergasted, absolutely flabbergasted at how many persons are willing to turn a blind eye to these types of situations. And I have to wonder why. What sort of community do we live in that we think that this is actually okay? Anyway, by October of 2018, this dude was feeling his cojones. He's got some real balls here. And he decided then that he was going to legally challenge the CIAA and say that they had to reinstate him after what he had done. And so, yes, folks. He, you know, his wife was former president. I think the only reason she stepped down is, again, during his whole trial, people were like, why are you still president of CIA and you have this man living in your house with you in Savannah, very much supporting him, very much supportive of him, and you're president of the Athletic Association? If you guys can't see the conflict there, the second that the allegations were made against her husband, any decent person, any decent thinking individual would have immediately stepped down, because that is the right thing to do. The very appearance of a conflict of interest is something that we should all be concerned about. So whether she knew about anything, and there were allegations straight up that young girls had gone to her and their parents had gone to her and made complaints against her husband, absolutely nothing was done about it. She, in fact, threatened legal action, should they go to the authorities or should they continue to try to have this discourse. So that was her alleged role in the entire situation. And now finally the police say, okay, we're going to proceed with charges. And what do? You allow this man to stay in your house. I guess she doesn't care that much about her own children. And so a lot of people are just like, what the hell? Anyway, he's a very brazen man, to say the least. So he threatened the CIA with legal action that if they did not reinstate him into the organization, that he was going to take. So he had been banned by an executive meeting in November of the following year, based on the constitution for the organization. And apparently, it was said at the time that it was a unanimous decision, which included his wife voting. So I just don't get this at all. Nonetheless, I remember at the time that the previous minister of sports was kind of supporting her, saying, maybe she was confused or she didn't know what kind of relationship she was getting in. Honey, let me make my position very clear. She's a big, hardback woman now with 2 children for this man. And I don't care what her mental state is. There was a 14-year-old child that was victimized here, at least one that we know of, and allegations of others. You need to be thinking about those children and their mental state. You decided to marry this man, despite rumors swirling around him for a number of years, and you decided to continue to stay with him despite those rumors. So, and despite an actual conviction, arrest and conviction. So that's on you. I don't really care about your mental state as an adult who's making decisions that will impact yourself and others around you. We need to think about the innocent children who have, no say in any of this. So so he decided to remain here and to try to fight the CIA. And apparently, this was quite a ticklish situation for them to be in. And he sent this letter. We did have a copy of the letter. So he was saying, I reserve the right to initiate legal proceedings against the CIA for taking unlawful actions in violation of its own constitution and the human rights and my human rights protected under the Cayman Islands Constitution. I seek immediate withdrawal and annulment of the said proceedings in the first instance, and I await your response within 7 days. Obviously, when we got a hold of this, we did not take kindly to this. Atto Stevens, who was 38 at the time, originally from Trinidad and Tobago, was actually disgraced even before he came here to the Cayman Islands, but whatever. So he was banned for competition for 2 years after failing drug tests. And this is what, again, we import gladly into our country and give them positions in our organizations so that they can feel like they're actually someone of importance, because, we do that here in the Cayman Islands. Okay. Anyway, eventually, the outcry was immense, and cabinet said, you got to go. And there was cabinet decisions in the past that basically, the opposition, thank God for them, the Honorable Ezra Miller and some others stood up in February of 2018, and they agreed with the public outcry that he should have to leave. And so eventually he left in, I'm trying to remember what year, but eventually he left. In March 11th of 2018, he finally left the jurisdiction on that morning. So That was 4 days after cabinet finally issued or signed off on the deportation order after wide public outcry. So my understanding is him and his wife are still very much in a relationship. She resides with him overseas at least part of the time. I believe her house in Savannah has now been sold. It was rented out, and I think it has now actually been sold to someone else. So she remains, and this is now where some questions come up. How can she be a member of the CIA if she does not, number one, live in the jurisdiction? And the conflicts of interest appear to me to be extremely obvious. The other question that has come up is why hasn't NACA been informed of Atto Stevens' conviction, which means that he would have been banned? Because as it stands right now, it is my understanding that they have not been informed, which would have been the responsibility of CIAA, the local athletic association. And because they have not been informed of this, it appears that he cannot get banned worldwide, which is precisely what should have happened, in order to prevent him from going elsewhere and getting athletic jobs. So right now, this dude could go to, you know, Miami or wherever it is that he is hiding out, and he could apply for a job and get said job, and nothing would be done about it because of the fact that he was never reported. And that reporting responsibility, it is alleged, falls squarely on the shoulders of the local athletic body. So it is very, very strange, to say the least, that this has happened. So lots of shenanigans going on. There's money involved here. People are saying, oh, the association is owed money that they haven't received from the local organizing committee. And the committee is saying, we don't have to pay any money. There's concerns about non-audited financials for CIAA, et cetera, et cetera. I think the bottom line is, from the perspective of news, that this is a hot mess. If we had to put this on the hot mess meter of 1 to 10, this is like a 10 plus. Because ultimately, the people who should be the least impacted by this situation, which are our athletes that work hard their entire lives to try to compete both regionally and on the international front, they're the ones who are going to suffer as a result of this back and forth and cribbling over money. So that's the first thing that I want to say. I always feel the most for the athletes because they just show up and they do their jobs. They perform, and this whole process can be so incredibly politicized because of, oh, this one says this, the money's owed, the money isn't owed. It's just a whole lot of back and forth. Now, here is what I think about the money. I agree with some members of the LOC if they say it's not in the contract, it's not in the memorandum of understanding that this is what would have happened. I agree in a matter of principle that I could see very much why they would not be paying that money. However, I also agree, and this is where it gets a little bit tricky here because I'm really of two minds at this point, that if the minister showed up to the meeting and she gave her word, not fully appreciating what was going on or not taking the opportunity to first speak with the LOC, and this is very much where I think the organizations have an issue. So if she showed up and said, we are going to now pay this money, and that is exactly what has happened, then in my mind, that money is owed, regardless. So you gave your word, and sometimes we're all guilty of this. We give our word based on incomplete information. What they say, dog eat your supper. As a minister of sports, she should have known that you do not stand up at an organizational meeting such as this and give your word about something unless you have all of your information and all of your ducks in a row, right? And if you do so, then it is incumbent on you. It is your responsibility to actually basically do what you said you were going to do. So you said you were going to pay it, or you said you were going to ensure that it was going to be paid. In fact, what I think should now happen, since she gave the word on behalf of the LOC and the LOC hasn't paid it, the government of the Cayman Islands should pay it. There's absolutely no reason why our athletes should suffer through this situation, be disqualified. I mean, it's such a disgrace, to be honest, that the Cayman Islands, our name as a country, is now marred. I was watching, all these social media accounts of athletic track associations and track groups and whatever, and everyone was trying to guess, because there was a post that went up yesterday about this, but they said, we're getting some information. This is a breaking story. We're trying to find out which country it is. So I was reading the post knowing full well it's the Cayman Islands, and everybody else is like, oh, this must be Jamaica. There's no way that this could be the Cayman Islands. And they were just going on and on and on and on and on. And it's like, really? The sad part is it was very much the Cayman Islands. No, as a matter of fact, they were guessing all sorts of countries and no one guessed the Cayman Islands. People are like, let me read you some of the comments. Someone said the Bahamas. They had relays last year and the Cayman Islands had CARIFTA a year ago. No regional competitions this year. So someone else said, this one person said, no, sir, not Cayman. That was Kenneth Davis. He's from the Cayman Islands. This is disgusting. This makes us look less than professional. It has marred our name in the world of athletics and sports. And I'm just going to read a few other comments here, and then I'm going to get to some of your comments as well. So, yeah, this was very much the Cayman Islands. Some people said, nope, this is fake news. Somebody else said, well, it has to be Cuba, Puerto Rico, DR. Couldn't be Jamaica. And a few other people said, this is fake news. The only country that comes to mind is Jamaica. Here's what this guy said. And he is from Chicago, Illinois. So again, there were lots of assumptions about who the country was, but I dare say that it was definitely not Jamaica. It's the Cayman Islands. And so this makes us look really bad. So Russia has been banned as well for drug usage. So I think they're the only other country that has been banned, like all of their athletes have been banned. So this puts us in the same category as Russia, obviously not for drugs, but for the non-payment of money. So imagine that. It's sad. I don't know. I think the government should just fork out the money just for the sake of keeping the peace. But I do think that, again, the LOC shouldn't have to pay it. I think that they have a point that if it was not in the contracts that they agreed to, then it isn't. And, why are they being penalized and held to a different standard? But it does really reek of, whoa, it makes us look super bad. Lisa, thank you so much for the shout out from the BRAC. Louis joins us from his COVID-free garden in Detroit. Thank you, Louis. Miss Morna, thank you so much for tuning in as well. And who else do we have here joining us? Debbie, good morning to you. So what do you guys make of this situation? Does this not sound like just a hot mess of a situation? And what do you think should happen? Do you think that the Cayman Islands government should fork up the money? Do you think the local organizing committee, who's basically said that they do not owe this money, that they should just pay it to make this go away? Like, what do you think should happen? Or do you think NACAC is now taking advantage of us because we are, a country that they feel like they can take advantage of? They pigeonholed us into this category of, oh, you guys are rich, you've got the money, it is what it is, fork up the money, don't ask any questions, just pay it because you can't afford to pay it. And there are a lot of people who are saying, no, 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 no. Fair is fair and right is right and wrong is wrong. I can totally see multiple sides to this situation. And I do feel like this is just one of those things that you want to resolve quickly, but then you also set a precedent if you just pay it. Because then there's always going to be an expectation that even if the other party is wrong legally, the Cayman Islands will fork up the money, which kind of reinforces what they think about us, that we just have money to pay out no matter what. What do you guys think? I'm going to put this up as a poll question. This is again the CARIFTA 2019 money. Should the Cayman Islands pay the disputed CARIFTA refunded money? Because they're saying that. So tell me what you guys think. Yes or no? And I guess the better question is who's going to pay it? I mean, that really is the question, right? So we've saved this poll. I think you guys should be able to see it in the live stream if you are now watching from Facebook. So we are trying to get a few things done here. Okay, so let me just see. Ricky says no. Good morning, Tamara. How are you from Fort Lauderdale? Ricky says they're taking us for rich dummies. It's not in the contract. And I like I said, if it's not in the contract, and if they have been asked to produce these contracts and they have been able to produce it, I think that that speaks volumes in and of itself. I agree with you, Ricky. I don't think that the local organizing committee should pay it. However, I do feel that because the minister maybe prematurely jumped the gun, you know, maybe she was feeling some pressure from these guys during the Congress and like, oh yeah, we'll pay it, we'll resolve it. You know how we are in the middle of a situation. Don't worry about it. We'll take care of it. You know, yada, yada, yada. She committed to something. So now her word as the minister of sports is on the line. So this should come out of, I mean, I don't even want to say the minister of sports budget because God knows our athletes could probably use that money, but that money has got to come from somewhere to be paid because she gave her word. And my understanding now is the NatCAC has actually sent her correspondence in May of this year, which went unreplied to. And I think they sent another letter. So she's been ghosting them, allegedly, and not replying to them now when she previously promised that it would be paid and sorted out. So I think it's on her. I think it is her word and she should fork out the money one way or another. Maybe we could take it out of some Emily's salaries. Okay. All right, folks. Okay, who else is going to weigh in on this? Ricky has given his vote. Okay, good folks, let's keep it moving. So what else has happened? Like I said, we're waiting on some information. about what happened at Banana's restaurant. We do understand this morning that they are it's cordoned off with crime tape, so only God knows what has happened there now. I guess we'll get some additional information on that as the morning progresses. Um, Everyone is kind of wondering how many incidents is that location going to have before the authorities maybe think about shutting it down. I'm not sure. It's crazy. So listen, we have got a potential situation brewing in our hands here. As you guys know, people are just fed up with Fidelity. I mean, when I say fed up, I mean fed up to the max. So we're planning a protest. We actually have to apply. So this is a tentative date. So if you are interested in more details about the protest, please contact us. So we are thinking of holding it tomorrow morning. I know it's a little bit of short notice. It's either going to be tomorrow morning or Wednesday morning. But what I want for you guys to do is directly WhatsApp message us at 324-1612. I know the 926 number on here is on here, but the better number is the 324-1612. Get your families together, get your folks together. Let's protest. We're going to do a peaceful protest by Fidelity. We just need to do the official process of getting confirmation from the RCIPS in order to be able to make sure that we are completely compliant with the laws that are in place. So I've already had a number of persons that have agreed to come out. We will have your signs ready for you. So all you have to do is show up. This is one of those times in life, folks, where you have a voice. And, we try to represent as many of the people here as we possibly can. We know a lot of you are fearful and you want to remain anonymous, et cetera, but there comes a time in life when you have got to say enough is enough. And you now have to stand up for yourself. And this is one of those occasions. This is your pension money. I don't have any pension money with Fidelity, right? So this isn't a bone that I'm personally fighting with them because I have a stake in this. I have no stake in this whatsoever. Okay? This is a matter, again, of doing what is right and the principal thing. So if you have money with Fidelity and they have not emailed you, they've not approved you, they've not contacted you, or even if they have done those things, but you still have no money and now you're going into 2-3 months later, you need to be a part of this protest. You need to have your body counted because trust me when I tell you, Fidelity employees are sitting down there watching CMR because apparently they have nothing else to do, like trying to get you your money. So we had someone go in on Friday inquiring about their money, and you know what the person was told from a staff member at Fidelity? Oh yes, we see you commenting on Cayman Mall Road's post about hosting a protest. Fidelity staff, really? Your CEO made you guys look like a bunch of dummies, okay? In the Legislative Assembly, in the public accounts hearing. Now you're going to try to defend this organization who said that they don't even know why you all are applying for your pension money when you're still working full time. Be careful who you go to bat for, right? And it's none of your business, to be quite frank and honest, what people are doing on social media, what they're commenting about Fidelity. If you did your jobs efficiently, if you put in the applications and handle people's business as you should be and simply gave them their money, you wouldn't be concerned about what they were saying about you on social media because they would have nothing to say, right? Do your job. Stay off of social media. Stay off of Facebook. Stay off of CMR's platform. And instead, process those applications and deposit people's money, cut them their checks. So some people have been paid despite the fact that I am told that they actually will not be seeing any statements for a further 2 months. So how can you pay someone money on statements and they don't even get to see the state? Like, I don't even understand that. So yes, you might get some money now, but you're not even going to know what you're supposed to get, how accurate it is, what statement is based on nothing, because now you're going to wait 2 more months to receive those statements. This whole shebang with Fidelity has been handled so incredibly unprofessionally, and it's just not acceptable. So once we get the authorization from the RCIPS, I'm asking you guys to WhatsApp message us. We're going to provide you with the respective details. And I see lots of messages coming in. So once we have confirmation, I hope that as many of you as possible can actually show up to this event. Let your voices be heard is what I can tell you. I'm just so disappointed in Fidelity. I mean, thank God I'm not a customer, because trust me, I would. Um, all right, folks. All right, folks. Yes. So that's a hot mess and a half. So I thank you. I mean, the response has actually been pretty good. So please continue to reach out to us regarding the Fidelity protest, and we will confirm via WhatsApp once we have the authorization. So the paperwork has been filled out, and it will be submitted to the RCIPS. We're actually waiting on them to send us the form. They haven't done so yet, but I was able to track the form down. Good morning, Larry. How are you? Odette has joined in. Holly, good morning. Thank you so much for tuning in. So those are some of the pressing issues that we had in terms of news here in the Cayman Islands happening over the weekend. A bit of good news. The governor actually paid a visit to some of the outer districts, to their police stations on Friday, I believe it was, and he took them a little box of like goodies, probably cookies and whatever, for them to enjoy that, and just as a thank you for those persons hard work, especially during the whole COVID situation. So a big shout out to the governor. He seems to be very much involved in the community at those levels. Next up, I want to talk about customs and some of the delays that have been happening with your packages. So yes, Trisha, we just mentioned that. We are waiting word on what has happened at Bananas. We don't know yet. We just know that it is taped off with police tape. And so I am waiting on either official word or, oh, here we go. Breaking news, folks. You know, CMR gets it first. Hold on. Give me 1 second here. I got my source. Large fight reported at the parking lot Bananas. 2 males taken to the hospital. One with a minor head injury and a second with a serious stab wound. Boom. There it is. Thank you very much. And no one brings it to you like the like Cayman Mall Road, fresh off the press. All right, so we're gonna put this story up here in a second. Give me 1 second, you guys. Listen, we cannot get news quick enough on this platform for you guys. I know some of you are like, oh, she puts up stuff too quick. blah, blah, blah. But can I tell you, if we moved any slower, you guys would not be happy because you want it and you want it now. It's like your Fidelity money. I want my money now. And you guys are like, we want the news now. It is what it is. We get it. We totally, totally get it. And I think, you know, what has also happened is we have raised the bar a little bit. Um, um, to the point where, you know, the expectation is definitely there. And so we get it. We totally understand your expectations. And so we don't have any pictures or anything as yet, but we will post up what we know, folks. What is with this establishment? I mean, I've never been to Bananas, so I don't know what the attraction is. Let me just see. Um, do you guys hang out at Bananas? What is it about this establishment that seems to, number one, always attract trouble? Um, and why do people keep going is a better question. I mean, is it like the best liquor in the Cayman Islands? Do they have the best Spanish girls are attracting all of you men? Like what is it? Is it like the cheapest place in Cayman to go? So everybody goes because it's cheap? Um, I don't know what the deal is. Tell me what it is while I write the story. um, there's not much to say on this one as yet. I'm sure that we'll get details. But you know, Bananas is always in the news. That's all I know. Honestly, I've not seen anything like this. A man lost his life there. When was that? Let me tell you when that was. Bananas. Somebody might have to pull their liquor license real soon because it wouldn't be the first time that a liquor license um, has been yanked from an establishment. You guys remember? So this was in, I think it was November, and there've been two brothers. There's been three guys in the BRAC arrested. So a man was killed there. Yes, November the 30th. So what gives? You know, it's ridiculous. Um, so that man that was killed there, you know, he leaves behind a wife and I think a daughter that were relying on him for supporting their family. Now that family has no one. I wouldn't say no one, but certainly the primary contributor to the family has been killed in the Cayman Islands of all places. It's so disappointing. And I would really like to know what on earth is going on. I mean, I just don't quite understand what's happening here at this particular location. I mean, you guys need to give me some insight into what it is about Bananas that, number one, makes it, I don't even know if it's particularly is it really a popular spot? Or is it just a situation where there's just the wrong crowd that is attending that location? Back in 2017, October of 2017, there were allegations of a sexual assault at that location as well. So, this isn't an isolated incident. So I'm going to put some of the related stories in here because I think you guys need to be reading this. I mean, this is crazy. How does this establishment continue to get away with all of these infractions? And like I said, it's not even the establishment, but ultimately the establishment will bear the brunt of what's happening, right? And so I know for a fact there have been other liquor license establishments that have shut down. They've had to shut down because of these types of incidents. So back in August of 2017, Bananas bar brawl leads to injuries. So what gives? I mean, and I do get the thinking and the logic, and I totally understand this. That you shut this facility down, another one will open up that attracts the crowds that are into this kind of bar brawl and fighting and that sort of thing. So I'm not so sure that really is, the proper solution. But I'm wondering in your minds, what is the solution? Well, all we can do is report on the matter. And like I said, we do know now a lot of people were messaging. So Tricia, you're not the only one who's wondering what's happening at Bananas yet again. And so now we know that there's been another violent incident there. There's always something at Bananas. So as we have additional information, we will certainly be updating the story. What I can tell you is that information always has a way of coming to us. So do you guys remember last week we reported on 200 pounds of ganja being confiscated at a house and some persons being arrested? Well, we now believe that we have the identity of those individuals involved, and you guys are not going to believe the link and the connection to all of this. We have to wait until tomorrow, only because I need to actually verify something with one of my sources. Okay, so this is where I need to do a little due diligence, if you will. And once that due diligence has been conducted today, because it is at the top of my priority list, I can assure you tomorrow's show is one that you do not want to miss. We will be revealing the identity of those persons involved and the irony of who one of them actually is alleged to be. When people have no respect for the law, all I'm going to say right now is when people have no respect for the law, they will contravene any laws. And when parents and others around them defend this bad behavior, they're only contributing to the demise of their own children. That's why everyone likes to say, oh, you've got a daughter. You better believe I've got a daughter. And I will never, ever condone any bad behavior that she might be involved in. Because I can tell you without any doubt in my mind that it is only a matter of time before you condoning that type of, when you say to your kids, oh, well, everybody's doing it, or it doesn't really matter. And they feel like they can just be in contravention of certain things because everybody's doing it. What does it matter? This is something minor. When you put that kind of thinking ingrained in your children in their head, they will have no respect for traffic laws, and they will have no respect for the bigger things in the community as well. And I think this is the point. I keep having this discourse, and I feel like I'm going a little bit circular with it. But at the end of the day, um, you know, it comes home that the thinking, that way of thinking, eventually comes home to roost, and you're not doing your children any favors. And I do understand that parents might be wanting to protect their children. But that's not how you protect your children. You protect your children by holding them accountable from day one, so that they know, if you do this, there'll be consequences for your actions. And sometimes that consequence means you're going to get arrested, you're going to go to jail, you're going to be on Cayman Road, your good name is going to be marred all over the place. So keep your shit together, children. Don't embarrass yourselves. Don't do the wrong thing. I have taught you better from day one, hopefully, that this is not what you should do. But when you teach your children, this rule doesn't matter, that rule doesn't matter, at what point does anything matter to them? So that's all I can tell you is, unfortunately, I don't know. It's just unbelievable. But this will make more sense to you tomorrow once I fish out and confirm a few things. Um, yeah. All right, folks. So that's what I've got for you. Um, Obviously, I don't know how serious the stab wound is from the one person. I don't know any details yet on where they have been stabbed. I suspect that on I understand now that there are actually 4 police cars out there as we speak at Bananas. So this is information that continues to come into us. And yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, we will try to stay on top of this and report as we find out, what's going on. So that's the breaking news this morning, and so we will keep you guys abreast of it. So this week, is it today that the Legislative Assembly will start debating the domestic partnership bill? So this is a big deal here in the Cayman Islands to some people, evidently. I see that Elvis addressed the issue on his, I want to say, weekly podcast, but Elvis doesn't always consistently provide a weekly podcast for us. So I guess whenever he feels like it, Elvis is of that age, when he can pretty much do whatever he wants. And yeah, we will keep you guys updated on how that goes. But Elvis, I think, used very strong language in this podcast. I did not get an opportunity to listen to it, but I did have a few people actually message inquiring why was Elvis using so much profanity? Listen, they didn't seem to like his approach to having discourse. They're like, oh, he's this, he's that. If you don't like it, just don't watch it. It's so simple, folks. No one forces you to do anything or watch anything that you don't want to watch. Definitely not on CMR's platform. So if you don't like it, if you don't like when people drop a few words here and there, which, hey, I ain't going to knock Elvis. Like I said, I didn't watch it, so I don't know how much profanity he's used. I sometimes, on occasion, do use profanity. And so if you are insulted by that, simply do not watch. I don't try to make it a habit, because I do feel like for the most part, I can express myself without it. But sometimes there's no substitution for a couple of choice words, if you know what I mean. Like, they convey the message very, very clearly. So Trisha, that's what we got on bananas. Hopefully that's somewhat helpful. Good morning, Sue. Hi, Karen. Karen says, I've heard you can get several services at a high price. What a mess. Well, they're not the only place in Cayman that I would have heard that about. I mean, there's a lot of locations that you can get several services at a low price, not even high price, a low price. Cameron, why we can't just go out with good vibes, have 2 drinks and jokes and dance? Well, I'll tell you what, part of the problem is you take ignorant people and you mix it with alcohol. And unfortunately, it is always a recipe for disaster. And Cameron goes on to say, if you have a heavy heart, anger about something, or personal problems with someone, stay home and relax. Yeah, people tend to drink, and that alcohol mixing with everything else that's going on is just a bad combination. And you know what else I think happens as well is when you're in a crowd and you're around other people, and this is especially men, but I think women suffer from this as well. You really get a sense that they're trying to like prove something. So they have something to prove. They're trying to show out in some way. And I think that that is obviously problematic. So yeah, that's what's happening. Um, all right, folks. So again, thank you so much for your contributions. Cameron says sometimes you need 2 cuss words for people to understand. Um, well, yes, I think that they are effective at times. You don't have to overuse them, but yes. All right, good folks. Let me see what else is going on here. We posted up a live poll. Has it showed up? I don't know. Sometimes this poll thing is a little weird, but we have posted it, so I'm hoping to get some feedback from you guys. Okay, and I've got tons of people messaging about the. Mhm. It says not yet published. I don't know why it hasn't been published. Published my poll already. All right, so let me just check and see what's going on. My apologies for having to kind of break up or discourse a little bit there to bring you that breaking news, but you know, we try to get you the information as quickly as possible. So the tourism stipends are being paid out. Good news, someone got a call on Friday that they're rolling it out in stages. So don't get to, you know, I mean, there's a process to all of this. You apply for the grants, even the small business grants. Some people are starting to get those paid out as well. We know that DCI licensing is a little bit behind because they've received over 800 new applications during COVID. Who would have foreseen this? And I think one of the reasons is you didn't have to pay a licensing fee necessarily before, but you did have to pay an application fee. And now that application fee has been waived during COVID as an additional incentive for people who need to renew their business licenses and so on. And the fantastic news about that is basically everyone is trying to put in their renewals, put in for new licenses, and you've got until the end of this month. So folks, today is the 27th. The month ends on Friday, so you've got until Friday to submit any business licensing applications that you've been meaning to get in, whether it's a new application or a renewal. You can do all of those online. So I would encourage you to get those in as quickly as possible and save yourself that little bit of extra money. So that's the deadline. And I think the government grants might have a pending deadline if you're a small business owner and you've not yet applied for those. That is coming up here shortly as well. So I believe that Odell Suarez might be joining us tomorrow about the government grants, just to give you a final bit of information on that. There have been some concerns about people trying to scam others, and he wants to make it very, very clear that that is not his company. that is doing that. And so we can certainly find out more about that. So big congratulations to Miss Reina Watler. She was 100 yesterday. I am just always so tickled pink by anyone who makes it, my God, not even to 100, but I think this is absolutely amazing. She looks good. Someone sent a few photos of her. She looks like she has been blessed. Um, and I'm going to share some of these photos with you. So big congratulations to Grandma, as she's affectionately called by most people. Just wow, amazing. She looks good. You know, my aunt passed away some years ago that I was raised by in the States in Tampa. And she had a BFF that I haven't seen in a couple of years. And as luck would have it, I ran into someone on Friday that said, Sandy, you don't know this, but I don't know if she was technically related to them, but say their adopted mom and your aunt were best friends. And I was like, what? Who's your adopted mom? And when they said Miss Margaret, I couldn't believe it. Miss Margaret, right off of Boilers Road, was a very, definitely, I would say, I don't know that those old people thought of themselves as having best friends, but definitely the two of them were very, very close until my aunt passed away. For many years, they both, are Boilers Road people. We're Georgetowners, right? And so this is Miss Reina Watler, who is celebrating her birthday, 100 years young yesterday. Can you believe it? She looks amazing. So big congratulations to her and her family. Happy birthday. And I'm sure they treated her like royalty. Look at this dress. I love this dress that she's wearing in this picture. It looks so pretty on her. But yes, I mean, such a blessing to reach the young age of 100. And here she is sipping on what looks like a nice, cold, fresh coconut. So beautiful. So yes, I was saying that my aunt and her BFF, Miss Margaret, but Miss Margaret is still alive and she's in her 90s. I think she's about 94 years old. So they shared some pictures of Miss Margaret over the weekend when they had a birthday bash for her when she turned 90. And I mean, she still looks good to me. I saw her a few years back in the grocery store at Kirk Supermarket. That was the last time I saw her. And even then, she looked really good. And it's just amazing. Just good genes, I guess, and taking care of yourself. Not doing the things that we know that are going to kill you, right? But yeah, absolutely amazing. All right, let's take a quick commercial break, only because I hear Coco the dog at the door telling me to let her in. And you know what Coco wants, Coco gets. So we'll be right back after these messages.
Miracle Brokers is back. That's right. We're fully reopened and back to work. Our agents are here to serve you with all of your packing and shipping needs. Need to move? Don't worry. Give us a call today. Collect a package, shipping around the world, or straight to Cayman? You got it. Give us a call on 949-5989. Collection by personalized appointment only, where our dedicated agents are on standby to personally assist you. Don't forget to wear your mask, maintain social distancing, and one person per appointment. Check us out at miraclebrokers.com today.
All right, folks. So welcome back. Coco has been let into the studio, so she has joined us. Someone just messaged and said they need to close that place down, referring to bananas. And I think that there's a point there. So yes, Cameron said, notice the coconut water. Bless her, different living back then, physically and mentally. Yes. Anything from the grapevine on Saturday's poll. So Cameron is referring to a poll that MLA, what's his name? Kenneth Bryan, sorry, um, did, and I've not heard any results. So I will ask him for that. So basically, he wanted some feedback directly from people are saying, where's the transparency? Give us the results. So someone, more than one person has actually messaged me this morning wanting the results of that poll. So we don't have any as yet. I don't know if they've been tallied or exactly how this is going to work, but these were questions in relation to the domestic partnership bill. So Mr. Kenneth Bryan, MLA for Georgetown Central, wanted to know, let me just see here, how people felt and thought about this bill. So we shall see. And then, let me just send a quick message here. We'll take it from there. So yeah, we will keep you guys updated as soon as we know. Obviously, the debate starts this week in the Legislative Assembly. We'll live stream, I think, as much of it as we can to keep you guys updated. And that's the best that we can do, and we'll see what happens. You know what is so interesting about this domestic partnership bill is I don't think anywhere in the bill does it say anything about same-sex relationships, but of course, everyone understands that this is in response to the court decision where it basically said, you know, get it together. Although I might be a little bit confused here, but I do believe that this that the legal challenge continues, that it's actually being taken to like the Privy Council, which is the highest appellate court for the Commonwealth jurisdiction. And so there might be a court decision yet on the whole aspect of the marriage law. So I guess we will continue to hear more about that. But in the interim, the courts have told, the Court of Appeal did tell the government that they need to fix the situation or else. And their response to fixing it is to pass this domestic partnership bill, which covers everyone, actually. It covers people because there are people who wish to be in a domestic partnership and they're not gay, lesbian, or bisexual. You know, they just don't want to get married for whatever reason. And I know people who by default have been in a domestic partnership, whether they've really considered it or not. They have purchased homes together. They have, you know, joint, I don't want to say matrimonial home because they're not married, but they have a joint domestic home, if you will, together. And so all of these protections that are now being brought in, if this legislation, if this bill is passed, is part and parcel of protecting those individuals as well. So I think it's really ironic that no one wants to talk about that aspect of the domestic partnership bill. The fact that it makes no mention of same-sex relationships at all, and it offers protections for a much broader group of individuals. And yet, despite that, you know, people are hyper-focused on this is only going to benefit this particular community, so let's stop this bill from coming into force. It's a lot of small-mindedness in this country, folks, and to be honest, I really have no time to entertain it at any deep level. We discussed it on Thursday's show. You guys know my position on this already. I'm not going to beat a dead horse. And so I had quite a few people contact me after that show to say thank you for speaking out on behalf of this community and for really just, you know, giving what's my opinion, but it's the cold hard truth. I'm of the opinion that what people do in the privacy of their home, and especially in the privacy of their bedroom, is none of our business unless, for some strange reason, it becomes a matter of public information because of somebody's arrested or something like that. And obviously, you know, there are things that people can do that are illegal, children, animals, that sort of thing. That's not what we're talking about here, folks. We're talking about consenting adults who are making a decision to do what they want to do in their relationships. And it's not even a bedroom issue. You know, everybody thinks that this is about sex. This is about people, adults who are in a relationship. with someone of the same sex that they say that, that they love, and that's their business. I'm going to let people love who they want to love. Like I said, as long as it's not children, um, or anything perverse like that, I'm not really in your business. So it is what it is. So whether or not we will get any results from the poll, I will confirm and let you guys know one way or the other. Yeah. Awesome. And I don't really know, Miss Coco. Coco's making a lot of noise in the studio here. I don't really know, to be honest, how this will impact Kenneth's voting, because he has said, he's trying to democratically gauge what his constituents feel and what they want him to do. But will that ultimately sway him? What about the people who didn't come out and participate? Like, does it have to be a certain percentage of individuals? So I don't know. I'm a little bit confused by how he will use the information that he has obtained to make certain decisions, and whether or not ultimately that is going to sway him one way or the other. We'll see. It's also going to be very interesting how certain individuals, aka Minister of Health Dwayne Seymour, gets up and contributes to this bill, because we have seen in the past that he has been less than professional in addressing this. And so a lot of us are curious to see whether his professionalism has been heightened or has it gotten any better as a result of his recent COVID-19 disclosures. So what I mean is, he was crying like a baby on the government briefing live stream. And then another time, the whole thing with the wife and being in total denial mode about that situation, and telling us about Mary and some parable and some donkey and whatever. I'm wondering if he's learned anything about his insensitiveness that he has displayed to the entire gay community before, when he's joking about gay pro and other such things. So I, for one, am very, very keen to hear his contribution. I do know that some persons have not been impressed with the fact that, I don't even know what to say. Certain members of the LA have gone about trying to quietly petition their way through. And I do have a letter, which I think we're going to be uploading as a letter to the editor type thing. But we do have a letter from someone who's basically said, listen, this is just ridiculous. These MLAs are actively trying to petition this from like the background. They've been going around supposedly talking to their constituents, and their position remains what it is before with the marriage bill, which is like, they didn't want the marriage law to be changed, which is understood. And now they're saying, I guess, let's not introduce the domestic partnership bill, because again, this bill says nothing about same-sex relationships or homosexual relationships, but they're still against it because they are of the belief that, it is what it is. So let me just see. Okay, so I've had one issue resolved this morning. You guys know I wear multiple hats, right? All right, good folks. Beautiful. One problem resolved, and hopefully one more on its way. Just checking our messages here. Breaking news. Trump's national security advisor tests positive for COVID-19. This is just too funny. Robert O'Brien. So this just came in. On the streams here. Kind of funny and ironic. I don't know what to tell you, except the only thing that surprises me is that President Trump himself hasn't gotten it yet. I'm waiting to hear that any day now. Like literally, he is one of the most fortunate people in the world because he's refused to wear a mask, and he just does whatever the hell he wants. He ignores good medical advice. He thinks that he's the expert and that no one else knows what's going on about COVID except for him. So I'm not in the least bit surprised that his national security advisor has it. And like I said, the only thing that actually does surprise me is that he himself hasn't actually tested positive yet. And I think it's only a matter of time, really. Good morning, Nikisha. How are you? Miss Malroad, she says. So, yes, Cameron, our elderly generation, they worked hard, but I feel like they kind of probably in many ways got a little bit more rest and stuff than we did as well. So Cameron says, one problem solved, a million to go. You know what? We can only focus on one at a time. So I try not to get too boggled down with the entire list of things that needs to be done, because trust me, you'd feel like you're never getting anywhere, if you know what I mean. So yes, I focus on one issue at a time. So Robert O'Brien, Trump's national security advisor, has tested positive for COVID-19. And given Trump's age, I don't know how well he would fare with a COVID-19 infection. Let's see here. So he's tested positive. The White House announced on Monday. Robert O'Brien, he has mild symptoms and has been self-isolating and working from a secure location off-site. I'm pretty sure he probably was in close proximity to the president even after getting the coronavirus. So President Trump, bless him, he hasn't caught it yet that we're aware of, and he says that he gets tested on a regular basis. They claim that there's no risk of exposure to the president or vice president. And the work of the National Security Council continues uninterrupted, the White House has said, and no further details were provided. So O'Brien is actually the most senior White House official known to get the virus and the closest to Trump. And he is, it says here, he is the latest in a number of known cases in Trump's orbit. So in other words, a lot of people around Trump have been getting it. And he's the closest one, so we shall see. I think it's only a matter of time, unfortunately, for Trump before he will probably test positive. So Regis Philbin, you guys remember him from Regis and Kathy Lee show. He died over the weekend. In case you missed the story, he passed away. I think he was 89 years old. He was scheduled to celebrate his 90th birthday here coming up shortly. So he has passed away. And I think it wasn't like COVID related or anything like that. He just died. He was 88, sorry. So I say that he was 88 years old. So I saw some of his pictures as he got older, and gosh, he really, towards the end there, started to show his age, so to speak. He had all the silver looking hair, but you know what? He still had most of his hair. So good for him. And he has done I think, well in his career. He won a number of very interesting awards. I mean, he got like, I think he hosted like the most hours or something on TV. It was really fascinating career for him. But yeah, um, he graduated from Notre Dame in 1953 with a degree in sociology before going into the U.S. Navy. And then he later hosted the Regis Philbin show out of San Diego before joining another show. And then eventually, Kathy Lee, I think he co hosted the morning show in 1983. And then eventually, at some point, him and Kathy Lee joined up. And that then resulted in his doing the Regis and Kathy show. And then after Kathy left the show, I don't know if you guys remember this, but then he did it with Kelly for a number of years with Kelly Ripa in 2001, and he stayed there until November of 2011. So he continued to work well into his senior years, so to speak, and he holds the world record for the most hours on television according to the Guinness World Record book, with more than 16,700 hours on air. So isn't that absolutely amazing? Yeah. So there you have it. Quite a interesting career, and he has now passed away. And we all got to go that route, folks. Trust me, we've all got to go that route at some particular stage. Some of us will not make it to the ripe old age of 88. So, yes, condolences to his family. No matter how old a person is, a loss is a loss. You know what I mean? We always feel like we feel the younger ones, but then, I mean, a loss is a loss. I don't think it matters really how old you are. Because even when you're a senior, you've touched so many lives. You've had, grandchildren, great grandchildren, and all these other persons that have become an important part of the ties that bind you, so to speak. So it is very, very interesting, I think, when an older person passes away as well, because they have left a legacy behind. And so this is certainly the case here. So, or his family did issue a statement and said that they're forever grateful for the time spent with him, for his warmth and his legacy, his sense of humor, and his singular ability to make every day into something worth talking about. And they said, we thank his fans and admirers for their incredible support over his 60-year career and ask for privacy as we mourn our loss. So amazing. And he also received the Lifetime Achievement Award in 2008 for Daytime Emmys. And in 2006, he was inducted into the National Association of Broadcasters Hall of Fame. So he's had a very interesting, I think, career. So yeah, so kudos to him and his family, and everything that he's been able to achieve, which now leaves a legacy. He also hosted Who Wants to Be a Millionaire. Do you guys remember that show? I used to love watching that show. I enjoyed it. But yeah, that's Rebus. Rebus, yes. Philbin has now passed on. Okay, folks, I think that about does it for us today. I'm just checking the news feeds and see if there's anything else that is breaking at this particular time. So imports. Oh, let me just briefly discuss the situation with UPS. So there've been a lot of concern because, listen, apparently our imports into the island, largely because of the COVID shutdown, I think people are not permitted to travel overseas where they normally go and shop and do whatever. A lot of people are now shopping online. They're bringing in orders by Amazon and God knows who else they're ordering from. So our imports have like doubled, and this is like the highest number of imports I think that we may have ever had in recent memory in any event. And so the companies are under a lot of strain, all the different brokerage companies that bring in supplies into the Cayman Islands, as well as customs. I mean, customs is feeling the strain. And remember, customs during COVID, when they didn't have any traditional border control stuff to do, they focused on clearing off. So they re-diverted and reassigned their staff, clearing off goods from the port, and they were very well organized in terms of how they deployed staff. In fact, I saw CBC staff working along with the police because remember now they have powers of arrest. And so they do have some law enforcement powers. And speaking of that, there is a dispute with contracts I'm going to talk about, probably not today, but we'll get to that with some CBC officers as well. So, so yes, there are, concerns that the system is a little bit stretched at the moment in terms of imports. Having said that, there's some companies that are blaming customs for situations that have nothing to do with customs. And so customs have said, listen, we will accept our role and that, yes, there are times when perhaps we are to blame for some of the delays. However, when we are not to blame, we are not going to take responsibility for other companies and their failures. So there is an issue with UPS apparently, where UPS has had delays and they are informing their clients that the delays is because of border control, Customs and Border Control Services, which is CBC. So on Friday, CBC issued a notice on their social media page, which is a bit unprecedented, to say that they wish to inform importers who are currently experiencing delays with receiving their goods from UPS that their delays are directly related to non-payment to CBC by the local agent representing UPS in the Cayman Islands. So listen to this shocker. Evidently, what is going on here is UPS, which is UPS, has a local agent, which is Sprint. And basically this says by the local agent representing UPS not paying the fee. Well, my inside track tells me what is really happening here is UPS isn't paying Sprint. And I guess this has been an ongoing issue for quite some time. And so Sprint has essentially said, we're not going to continue to pay UPS's bill for them, knowing that then we have to run around and try to collect our money. So, what a mess. I tell you what, it is just next level crazy with what I'm hearing here. They've had a relationship with NCI that broke down. They had a relationship now with Sprint. My understanding is that relationship is about to come to an end. And so that will be ending here shortly as well. And I don't know what UPS is going to do, but it sounds like they need to get their act together. So if you've used UPS to bring in your goods and you've not received them, that and that is just to wrap it up. What's going on? They're not paying their fees in a timely fashion. And so Sprint is not going to take on their financial obligation when Sprint has their own financial obligation. And listen, Customs knows some of these brokers and how they operate. And they are not going to give them a credit or foot them like, oh yeah, pay us when you can sort of thing. Customs wants their money and they want it now. And Customs has said that they treat companies, just to be fair, like everyone else. They're a customer. And so they have got to pay. They don't get any exceptions. When you come through and your duties are owed, you got to pay Customs. Customs isn't going to say, oh yeah, get back to us next month when you have some money. That's not how this situation works. So having said that, I think UPS needs to get their shit together. So my understanding is of August the 1st, Sprint will no longer be representing and working with UPS as an agent. So what a hot mess. of a situation that is. Yeah. Ay, ay, ay. So thank you so much, Krista, for checking in on us. You have a blessed week as well. Did you get in contact with me, Krista? I think you were trying to call me. I believe Thursday or Friday, and I can't remember if we actually spoke or not, but do call me if you haven't. Even Odd wants to know how to share the best way to communicate with travel time. I'm waiting a response from an email that I sent on July the 21st. Calling overseas and is unsuccessful. Even Odd, send me via WhatsApp 324-1612 your contact details, because I did reach out to someone who can assist with this. So, so if you will get in contact with me via WhatsApp, I will pass along your details so that you can get a response. All right, so that's where we're at with that situation. So I would say yes, if you're shipping, expect delays at the moment. I mean, I used Aeropost the other day, and I'm going to share my experience with you guys shortly and how that went, because this is actually my first time using them, and I found some very, very interesting things that I definitely will share with you all. And my goods are here, but I can't get them until obviously it clears customs, and I understand that at the moment there is a delay of about 5 days or so. So you just got to wait. You got to be patient. You know, what can you do, really? So we'll continue to keep an eye on that situation. And folks, that wraps it up for us. We are out of time, over 2 hours. So I wish you all a wonderful and blessed day. Please stay safe as you traverse the roads of the Cayman Islands, because there's a lot of crazy drivers out there. So take your time, drive slowly, no speeding, no texting while on your phone. You can talk hands-free, of course, but just buckle up and be safe is the best advice that I can give you. And safety is our paramount concern. Stay tuned for tomorrow. Like I said, I'm going to bring you guys, hopefully, the protest at 9 o'clock. I'll be confirming that later on today. So if you're interested in joining the Fidelity protest, continue to watch and monitor our page, because we will definitely have that information up and available on the page, and I'll advise you guys of that. So all you have to do is show up. We're going to have all the signs and everything like that ready for you and ready to go. And at the end of the day, we just want to send a very clear message to Fidelity that we're not impressed. All right, Sue. So we'll discuss maybe some of that further on into tomorrow's conversation. Have a wonderful day, folks. Take care.